5. Note on the origins of King Arthur and the Holy Grail. From my book ISBN 979-8-8862-783-9. King Arthur and the Fisher King's Holy Grail is a parable of a wound in the leg of the Daniel statue meaning Rome. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/Fisher_King Christianity had wounded the structure of pagan Rome. And to get that back, they had to solve the Holy Grail to understand the meaning of Revelation. With that, they would throw off the yoke of Christianized Rome and move into another paganized, all-encompassing kingdom. Whether they wanted to be a part of it or martyred, that kingdom was the one in Jerusalem they wanted to again, the third, or Ezekiel's temple. It was a common tactic to absorb peoples and religions into the empire. Rome absorbed Carthage, or the Punic culture, in that way. This was the reason for the Crusades, an evil plot to control the religions and kingdoms and trade network as well, just like Herod and Rome in a pluralistic religion there. Another temple from Ezekiel with a prince. But like the rest of the temples, they all got polluted with Babylonian influences via Rome and ancient Babylon. No one expected the church to form in 325, they expected a pagan temple to arise with a new religion that's based off of Hellenized Judaism and a synchronized one-world kingdom and religion. Find my book ISBN 979-8-8862-783-9 Pandora's Box and the Holy Grail. It's not just Masons, this is the entire occult trying to do this, especially the Rosicrucians or occult groups within the Catholic Church during the Renaissance and before. There's always been that two-tiered Janus religion with the old pagan Rome and occult from Babylon mixed in with Orthodox Christian theology. For them, the occult New Jerusalem is a physical temple in Jerusalem, the third temple, as a portal to the divine New Jerusalem, or from another group of them that believe the apocalypse opens that portal and the building of the temple is the combination to progress past this age. For Revelation to be accomplished and to get into the next age, there has to be a persecution exactly as is written, and then there needs to be two witnesses that wind up performing miracles like Moses and Aaron in Egypt's court. Then they have to be killed by the fallen angels who bring hell with them, and once they are raised, heaven opens up in Revelation 11 and Revelation 15 happens with the culmination of the second advent. So most of them believe that it's better to rule there in a world religion/kingdom forever because they are atheists in that regard or Amillennialist types. Amos 5:18, the day of the Lord. 18 Woe to you who long for the day of the Lord. Why do you long for the day of the Lord? That day will be darkness, not light. 19 It will be as though a man fled from a lion only to meet a bear, as though he entered his house and rested his hand on the wall only to have a snake bite him. 20 Will not the day of the Lord be darkness, not light, pitch dark, without a ray of brightness? 21 I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. 22 Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Though you bring choice fellowship offerings, I will have no regard for them. 23 Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. 24 But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. 2 Peter 3 verses 11 to 12. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives. 12 As you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. That day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. 2 Peter 3 verse 12 Or as you wait eagerly for the day of God to come. Strong's Concordance. Probably strengthened from pose, to speed, study, i.e. urge on, diligently or earnestly. By implication, to await eagerly, make, with, haste unto. Ezekiel's temple. Ezekiel 40-48 shares a lot with the old Babylonian temple in its building. Some people say it looks like that because Ezekiel was in Babylon when he had the vision, and so it becomes corrupted with a corrupted prince, or is built that way. Greater Israel is involved, and instead of the star, or on top of it, is the mark of Cain, which is Chai, or the life symbol. Without that mark, no one is sanctioned for life, or redeemed by the first horseman of the apocalypse, the Antichrist, who is called the Jal in Islamic tradition. Isopsephi is Greek geometra. It's when you count each numeric value of each letter in chronological order from left to right. In the case of 666, you just add them together. Like Amor life is 18 or 6 plus 6 plus 6. The Greek 666 would have been identifiable in Hebrew translation back then as the mark of Cain. The mark God gave Cain was the mark of life. It's a Herod-like kingdom that has its name as life, or redeemed by the Antichrist to live in his kingdom. A plural kingdom, so it encompasses all the religions and persecuted those who don't comply and follow them, and pays the rest off by working not even that many hours, which is why the merchants weep in Revelation 18 verse 15 after the sixth seal, and finally at the last bowl of wrath is poured out. This is the seventh head of the red dragon, which is the seven-headed beast from the sea. It's a structured pyramid layered in the cultures of the seven heads of the red dragon, each themed as Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and this Nicolaitan, Gnostic, Druze, Antichrist, and false prophet religion. The beast from the earth is the apostatized structure of the Eastern Orthodox and Western Catholic, meshed with the rest of the religions, with the beast from the sea claiming to be Jesus reincarnated and everything else as the Lord Maitreya of the occult. The beast from the earth replaces 3 horns of the beast from the sea. There are 4 horns on the 7th head of the beast from the sea. One of those horns is like Assyria had a sea foe that managed and made sure the empire was running smoothly. According to YouTube channel Assyria, the first evil empire. The Antichrist and the Eastern and Western church leaders that support the first horse rider of the first seal in Revelation 6, the Antichrist as God. These 3 leaders are 3 horns that are later replaced by the false prophet that emerges with the remaining 4th horn or CFO treasurer, based on the Assyrian formation of king treasurer and council ruling. These 4 horns are on the head as one federal provinces that oversees the 6 states ruling beneath it, each a head with a horn and crown, together making the 7-headed 10-horned 10-crowned beast from the sea. The AI statue that speaks, or the statue of Marduk, see Wikipedia article, reinvented serves the position of the council that we see in the structure and formation of Assyria's kingship and empire. The first beast is the conqueror. The second little horn that emerges is the domestic operator of the Antichrist's domain. The beast from the sea meanwhile conquers more terrain or puts down rebellions. That's how the 2 witnesses fight the false prophet domestically in the capital, and the Mahdi and other nations are fighting the Antichrist who are resisting. The one world technocratic system is hijacked by 10 kings who burn Jerusalem, who they hate and overtake over as the beast from the sea rises as the first 4 seals and the horsemen of the apocalypse, which set up the Revelation 13 scene. After it's set up, the false prophet runs it. The testimony of the 2 witnesses sync with the 5th seal to the 5th trumpet. They turn water into blood and accomplish that at the 2nd trumpet, for example. They overcome the false prophet and the Antichrist until the 6th trumpet, when the beast of the abyss kills them. They also kill a third of mankind. This is described in Revelation 9 as the 6th trumpet, right before the 7th trumpet, which happens at the end of Revelation 11. Azazel, Semjaza, Barakijal, Amaros, and Kokabel, the angels and demonic Nephilim, are the 5 angels from Revelation 9 that kill the 2 witnesses. Following the mid-tribulation rapture theory and renaming it a nightly pilgrimage, we can sync the Islamic and Christian eschatologies, as well as the other religions that are resisting the beast at that time. They are changed and wait until the vials are poured out on the beast. The nations that resist become the nations of the millennium. After the Second Advent, the second generation rebels as the final battle, followed by Judgment Day and New Jerusalem, Revelation 20-22. The image of the beast is described in Revelation with the wound that heals in chapter 13. That is speaking about the tenets of the ancient Babylon religion. The calendar of Babylon and the succession of kings is the wound that heals. The Marduk statue is the statue that speaks, only this time it is AI reprogrammed to fit the goals of the beast's empire. https://www.ldolphin.org/nimrod.html New Year's Day was the most important day of the Babylonian calendar, and during the ceremonies, the statues of Marduk and his son Nabal were carried to a special shrine outside of the city, where Marduk would prophesy and Nabal would interpret his words. The beast and false prophet imagery of Revelation L3. The statue of Marduk and its attendant regalia were captured by conquerors several times, and their return was always connected with reincarnation and the resumption of his rule over the earth. Marduk was the great god of war, and only once in all his battles was he wounded when his helmet slipped from his head. As a result, he received a fatal blow, but being a god reincarnated himself. It was in his warrior aspect that he was related to Mars, the god of war. Because of the way the succession of kings happened in that culture, the fatal wound was when the emperor died and then was reincarnated in another leader. That's the cycle we see in Greece when Penelope goes to live with Hades for the winter. That's the weeping for Tammuz period, reflected in the 40 days of Lent. The emperor dies and the mother goddess or queen rules and raises the new heir as a son until the son grows up and adds to the kingdom with a feat of strength. The cycle continues when the new emperor dies. If the queen died, the city would raise the reincarnated leader. That's the Babylonian cycle of the mortal wound. It's a succession of their kingship that is also reflected in their calendar. That's what the mortal wound means. It is a Babylonian symbol along with the statue that speaks, which is the Marduk statue, along with the structure of beast and false prophet based off of Marduk and Nabu cults in Babylon. https://youtube.be/jm4kxmcfxcw?si=8vyvcw fuduou1 by. Before Masonry, Gnosticism was a secret order in the church. It still is. The story of that is reflected in the iron and clay symbology in the book of Daniel. At least since Jesus' time. Even back in the Essene community and early church they were there. Back even in Israel and Judah. And before with Seth and Cain. Believers are grafted into the tree of Israel, and their main enemy was a form of Gnosticism or Hellenization, which has Babylonian roots. Which again goes back to Cain and Seth lineages and stories. The tares and the wheat parable. It's been a constant battle against Gnosticism, a losing one for the better part of Catholic existence. The Jesuit Pope says all roads lead to God, but using equivocation and escape clauses, he can say that God means Jesus Christ and all roads lead to Christ. But the narrow path leads to the gate and the broad path leads to destruction. The Jesuit has a job to get everyone under the Catholic Church. They are defunct once that's accomplished. On their best day, they can say everything will work out for the best according to God's will once that's done, but it's not true. It's an example of the Janus aspect of religion in general. All roads to God meaning Jesus on the right side and divinity on the left. This is how white lies are so destructive, but he's trying to get other world religious leaders and faiths to submit to his more powerful church, not so much regular people. But there are other orders in the church that work and influence Jesuits like Martinists/Rosicrucian, since before Jesuits were formed. Nicolaitanism is a form, or really the goal of Gnosticism that's really just religious hedonism. Which is why it attracts so many people. It's an oxymoron to call all the pleasures of the world divine. The main belief of Gnosticism is pantheism in that regard. There have always been occult orders in the church, like Nicolaitanism, which is the main goal of the occult orders. https://youtube.be/rq_6eqvjec question. There's a problem with Alphonse Liguori. The occult was heavily involved in the Catholic Church, and some of the worst hypocrites were in their ranks, even today. These were those in the Holy Roman Empire that favored old pagan ways of ancient Rome. But they were sneaky. Someone working for the occult would blame the Jews and scapegoat them. Like Liguori, who set precedent for normalizing lying from the church. Think of back then when they would go to collect taxes from the poor and lie to them, so that the ends justify the means to be paid through predatory usury. It's hard for anyone to even imagine a world with no usury and no replacement words for usury. But that's how any functional economy works when kept in small pots. Where everything is easily produced, sold in the area for the most part, where everyone can participate. That's not even the worst though if you consider the Spanish Inquisition and the mistakes that were made during that time supposedly justifying their cause. The fruit of his teachings is apparent in today's hypocritical and unjust world. You can't have a bishop lie to the congregations about rape and other crimes, but that's exactly what they did to protect the church. They used Liguori's techniques, like a lot of modern-day lawyers and politicians. And the ethics of that are closer to the Babylonian ethics of strong survive and rich rule the poor. When I say the occult, what I am referring to is ancient Babylonian system, mostly, and pagan pantheism that worships higher human institutions as divine. Rome absorbed the traditions of the Punic Empire to conquer them. It's a similar tactic that happened with every empire since ancient Babylon. You can see traces of that system in all the major ancient empires. One of those traits is claiming the higher institutions, world civilizations, and the rich people of society is divinity. Divinity is not of this world. It's from a higher plane of existence. It's been hundreds of years since no usury was right, and when it was right, it was in small, far-out places for the most part. But it's important to raise awareness of what's been lost when trying to understand divinity in the first place. Many times the worst ones don't even know what they are supporting or doing. And that's a tactic that's used that works generations from the time it's implemented. Which is why education is crucial in terms of the history of the church. More testimonials off the internet. If you look at the Code of Hammurabi, the law favors the rich and doesn't take the poor into account. Therein lies significant differences. The covenant protects the disenfranchised members of society, regardless of their place or rank in society. While the Code of Hammurabi is interested only in the freemen class and gives special protection to the middle and higher social classes of Babylon. This is seen in the laws of the code as the Awilu are given special status and protection, but the lower classes, the Wardu, slaves, and the Mushkanu, free person of low estate, have no such protection. That makes the lowest classes of the Babylonian society significantly more liable. The code had no such protection to help, protect, and defend those who could not help or defend themselves. Moses certainly didn't copy the laws from the code, which favored the wealthy like the law of Hammurabi had. What the Babylonians should have done was to copy the Book of the Covenant from Moses, because it didn't have laws favoring the rich and powerful. This book doesn't place products over people. It regards the sanctity of life of infinitely more value than just paying a fine. That's because it's from the author of life. In a regular world, the church would be the responsible wardens of the economy, at least for the poor. If they want to bring back the Catholic Church, all they need to do is open the Liturgy of Hours and the monastic manners and hourly schedule for the lay people. Nobody would even need to have money in that case, not even the rich. Those with talent would be put in better living quarters, and those that ruled would be in the best. Like I said, they had a structure. Communism for the poor working the hours in the field mostly. And it's not even that bad of a work day if you look at the schedule around the Liturgy of Hours. The day was divided by work, rest, and prayer. They had a lot of time to sleep, and work was in 2 to 4 hour increments broken up by community prayer, meals, work, rest, and reading. A lot of times you didn't even have to work except for harvest and planting seasons. They had time to make chairs and other items and learn skills. Entrepreneurial capitalism for the peasants to buy and sell at markets with the help of the poor each week, usually the elderly. Socialism for the nobles, which were educated or gifted to perform tasks and services that was usually administrative, doctors who served everyone for God and not money. Bishops and elders would scout for talent in the market for these people, but the ones they scouted couldn't become higher than the rulers usually, unless they found or needed a ruler, and most times the smart ones stayed as advisors in this class. There was a weakness when it came to nepotism, and sometimes another weakness, simony, helped the nepotistic ruling class. But for the most part it worked well and didn't require too much to run the society. Fascism for the royalty or rulers who were separated from the general population and got the best of everything and protected the church system. The emperors of the church system or law. We are almost 1,000 years away from those days. https://www.pathio.com/blog/christiancrier// the Code of Hammurabi and the Law of Moses, similarities, differences, and common purposes / https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/mental_reservation